Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Japanese Shabu podcast. We're gonna kick things off with Sakamoto Days, episode 13. So in this one, where it kicks off right with a nice little flashback to Shin and the rest of the group talking to Lu and Wu Tang, I believe is his name, and he basically was telling them about how you can subconsciously think of something you're about to do, and in that way Shin could upgrade his psychic abilities, whereas like it'll be almost as if he's telling the future, because he'll be able to read what they're subconsciously thinking of doing before they even do it. So that is essentially giving us an explanation as to how Shin was able to do what he was doing last episode. But then afterwards we get a nice cut back to Shin fighting the guy, and it turned out that Shin can't hold this ability for very long, as he starts kind of getting some side effects afterwards, getting weak, and the guy almost catches him lacking. And if it's not for Lu that saves him, he would end up being mincemeat then and there. But turns out there's like different modes that Lu can go into while being drunk. So the one that she got into this time was like a mafia boss type of drunk. So like she thought she was all ruthless and calculated and very aggressive, to say the least, as she was able to dig into the guy's like forearm with a shovel. Very kind of crazy. The guy even started rethinking his life, like, oh shit, I might actually have to die here. And that's not something he was like, I don't want to do this. And it's very terrifying as he's trying to get away, and Lewis throwing things at him, and Shin is able to use that confusion that the guy has to hit him with the ladder, same at the same time that Lewis also strikes him down. And yeah, I'm very happy. This was a nice win for both Shin and Lu, and even though they kind of like both pass out, Shin for overusing his psychic abilities and Lu for the hangovers and the drunkenness, they wake up and they find these cleaners of sorts, right? I think they call them like floaters. So the floaters are essentially like people that are trying to get into the assassination business, and their job is to clean up after the actual pros. So these are like part-time workers, and it's a really interesting that I little tidbit I forgot about Sakamoto and Moto Days, and how they have these kind of like your background characters that make sure that everything you do as part of your assassin gig basically leaves no trace. So really nice to find out what happens in that aspect of the world. And then we have Osaragi with um, the blonde guy, I forget his name, Chishiba, I think is his name. Uh, and they're kind of like having dinner, and Osaragi this gets a call from Nagumo that he found some of the inmates that escaped, and he wants them to meet him there, or not. It really depends. He's just trying to like pull their legs. Like Nagumo is all about being playful and playing them up. So he she ends up going, and she starts this prayer in this shrine, and she meets I believe her name is Dump, who is one of the inmates that likes to skewer people. Like she has pointy objects coming out of her palms and several other places. And Osaragi's like, well, I should be thankful that my wish was granted by the gods so quickly. So they get to scrapping, and I love that Osaragi was beating her up by trying to do all the things from that you would do in a prayer. So like making her bow, making sure she hits like concrete or wood, make sure she and clapping to pray. So she claps her face in between her palms, and it was a pretty interesting fight. Like I gotta say, like a lot of the ladies really showed up in this episode for Sakamoto, And as they get to fighting, we learn a little bit more about Dump and how she was growing up, how she always had this this feeling of love and this feeling of not feeling good enough for the other person to only think of them. So like what ended up happening was like she would take that one-sided love and crush or destroy or screw her the other person that she loved. Like if she couldn't have him, then nobody would, kind of type of thing. But it also felt like a bit shallow to her that this is what it came down to, because she really just wanted somebody to love her the way that she loves everybody. But neither here or there. Her and Saragi are getting into this amazing fight, and Saragi really was not even using her main weapon at first. She was just barehanding things, being able to predict her movements, and then when she actually brought out her heavy artillery weapon, we find out that it's actually quite heavy, as the entire briefcase kind of like shapeshifts into a saw, and that's what she used to take down Dump, but not before having Dump realize that Osaragi was kind of like beautiful right before taking her down, almost like she had finally found somebody that understood her type of love in a sense, and I guess that in doing so, like it set her free, and Saragi managed to end her then and there. Then we have the other people that brought out all the inmates essentially. Kashima and Slur or X are kind of talking over the phone, and Kashima, the reindeer guy, kind of gets interrupted by the guy called Apart, the one that likes to separate people into pieces, and pretty much the the Kashima was trying to tell like Slur like, hey, they've done their job. We can probably move on to the next phase of the plan, which the seemingly the main reason why they released those inmates was to keep the order busy enough for them to go and do something else. So really they figured it wouldn't be a big enough diversion to stop the order, but at least it'll give them enough time to do what they needed to do wherever it is that they're doing. But Apart wants no part of that. He feels what Apart really likes to do is to really get it to know people before slicing them to pieces. So like when he was like, "Oh well, what you guys are doing are not really helping me understand you better," so he slices up the reindeer or Kashima, and Slur pretty much lets him know like, it's okay. Listen, let him go free. He might be a bit too much for Sakamoto and the gang, but it's fine. The more they're focused on getting to Sakamoto and taking care of them, the better it will be for us in the long run. And right before the episode ends, we get to see the guy that like puts people into mincemeat, like grinds them into balls, kind of like goes into the Sakamoto days and finds the wife there, which I'm I don't think I want to spoil what happens next. It's like who comes to save the wife or anything like that, but I gotta say it's gotta be pretty scary that all of a sudden you're in the store and you have a random ass tall guy just staring down at you with some intent for other stuff. And then we get like a little mini kind of like Sakamoto days off kind of thing, where it's like Sakamoto and the group are doing the watermelon challenge, and Shin and Lu try to be funny and uh, play a prank on him, but it didn't work because Sakamoto can actually sniff out the watermelon, and it just ends up scaring Shin near death as Sakamoto takes out the knife and cuts the watermelons into pieces. But oh yeah, and I failed to mention the guy that Lu and Shin kind of took over. He ended up meeting his Santu with an order member as well. So seemingly the order members are here and they're not playing. You can tell that there's a reason why a lot of them are like A or S rank bounties on them. So really great stuff from Sakamoto. If I have to say anything, it's that negative about it is just that it's still at times it feels like a PowerPoint presentation with just some really great impact frames to kind of cut corners of how fluid the animation is supposed to look like, which I would prefer if it was like actually flowing animation. But other than that, I'm really enjoying the story, really enjoying how they're adapting it. The colors are beautiful, the characters are lovable, voice actors are killing it, and yeah, I can't wait for more Sakamoto. So I think I'm rating this episode a 9 out of 10. The summer Hikaru died, episode 4. So in this one, Yoshiki and Nunuki are kind of like, and the Nunuki, I should say, the fake Hikaru are kind of feeding this stray cat, and you can really just see the Nunuki really try to be more fitting in, be more human-like. Like he's learning the experience of like fitting a stray, something Hikaru has probably done, but now he's getting to experience that for the first time, his actual self. So yeah, I do love that in this like little brief moment with them, he does the Nunuki that is kind of points out that he doesn't know anything about his surroundings. He doesn't know things that are going on within his body, like how when he's excited, like this like uh, stuff comes out of him, and all this other human-like qualities that he is getting to experience for the first time, and he doesn't really. He feels like a baby practically, right? Like he doesn't feels naive. He feels his own naivete, and he's glad that I'm sure he's glad that Yoshiki's there to help him. And despite all this, despite Yoshiki realizing that, man, things can go really bad with this person with this entity. As there's so many warning signs, like everything everything's kind of warning him not to get close, but he chooses to stay close to him regardless. Really interesting way to look at things, and it definitely seems like, for me at least, it seemed like the way that Yoshiki looks at him, and now it's seeming like in another point of view, it's almost seeming like this Nonoki is starting to become more human like, starting to blend in more, starting to realize how to maneuver being a human. And it's really thanks to Yoshiki that it keeps pointing things out to him. So it'll be interesting to see if that's kind of like where it leads off, where like, because he's not necessarily human, he takes full advantage of the human emotions that Yoshiki kind of is showing him, and the naivety that Yoshiki kind of has, and also Yoshiki's goodwill is being taken advantage of course. But then we cut back to the next day, and how these two girls were coming out from like their orchestra uh, performance or preparations for the summer festival, I should say, and they're like right near a railroad track, and this one girl kind of starts hearing like coming, 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 like almost like guiding for wait, like something's telling her to come to the rail tracks. So she points out to the other girl, "Hey, you know what? My 2 cents is telling me not to cross this railroad." And the girl's like, "Well, your 2 cents have been pretty spot on lately, so I think I'm gonna trust you," which we later find out at the end of the episode was probably the best thing that girl did this episode, because at the end of this episode we have this thing that's coming out of the rail tracks just yelling coming, coming, and it looks freakish. So this was a great save. um, and now we get in more into like Joshiki's family side of things, at least in this episode, as we see him, his sister, and his mother all in one home, but we don't really get to see the father so far. So like I'm kind of wondering like what happened to the father as I'm going through this episode. And Yoshiki and the Nonoki decided to take Yoshiki's sister up with them to the festival. And during as they're progressing, kind of enjoying the festival themselves, we have elders of the village kind of talking about this ritual that was supposed to take place, and that the Indo family, or Hikaru's family, it does every year to appease their own god of sorts, and that this time something probably went heavily wrong with it. And since there's the in the family was the only one that knew how to do it and knew how to perform it, it's they're feeling like things something strange gonna keep happening to the village. They're like they've been saying there's been like sightings of strange things occurring already, and we've seen throughout this anime that yes, the Nonaki being with Joshiki is causing a lot of the supernatural stuff to kind of make its way down the mountain as well along with it. And it's been really nice lore dump that this episode had, where like the Indo family has been able to do this ritual for 300 years and has been able to keep whatever's like within the within the mountain or the Nonaki up in there, and keep all the evil spirits there that come along with it. But now that it's not visible to do the ritual anymore, they're kind of worried now because the who they believe is Hikaru is too young to really attempt this sort of thing. And we do get even more knowledge, or like more world map view of the village, and that we learn that all the surrounding communities or surrounding towns, cities, whatever, have been we're all essentially part of this big unity with it, but this one kind of separated itself from those, and in doing so, form its own religion or like its own entity that they worship. Meanwhile, the rest of the places have tons of churches and stuff. And we learned that because the outsider that came in that's hunting the Nonaki kind of is telling them all this stuff, as we're seeing Yoshiki and the Nonaki kind of like go through the festival, and at one point the Nonaki kind of hits this barrier that the guy created, and the guy instantly notices because first of all his hamster like makes some noise that he brought, and he also starts feeling a lot of pain, which we learned that whenever this barrier is created, he has to like give up an internal organ to make sure it's strong and intact. So this guy's a real brave warrior to be able to do that, as it's not like necessarily part of the agency's regulations. This is kind of going not against it, but this is kind of going on its own form of justice to get shit done in here. And basically, the Nonaki realizes that this barrier is kind of like in the way, and I don't know. It just seems like the Nonaki knows that it's not gonna be able to do whatever it wants now. And not only that, but it also like this barrier kind of like brought out its true form, so maybe it weakens his hold on Hikaru's actual body of sorts. And then we have the Nonaki reunite with Yoshiki, and they're there having ice cream, and it's just really interesting as the two kind of get to talking about the ice cream, and how Yoshiki says the syrup is the same, it's just the color dye that makes it taste so much different. And that's when the Nonaki asks, "How did you know that I wasn't the real Hikaru? Where was it because of was it because we're kind of like the syrup?" And he points out, "No, that's not necessarily why, but we learned that Yoshiki actually found Hikaru's body in the mountain as it was as Hikaru passed." And yeah, no, it's really interesting that we get to see Yoshiki actually find Hikaru's body, because it kind of makes me remember the first episode and how he asks the Nonaki about like if it's not Hikaru, uh, and yeah, it makes me think a lot of about kind of the turmoil or like the panic attack that Yoshiki had when he found the body, and then only to realize that the body that belonged to his best friend has now been taken over by an unknown entity, and something he himself has said that can never is replace it and can never replace him. And he actually breaks down this episode as we see after the flashback of when he found it that he actually misses Hikaru. And one of the reasons why he misses Hikaru is we we see him and Hikaru kind of like talking to one another at the lake, and they're talking about like how everybody's up in Yoshiki's family's business, which just and he talks about how his father and mother are always fighting, and this just lets me know that Yoshiki comes from like a broken family. His mother and father probably got a divorce, and he really felt so out of place. Not only because probably because it seems he's at least bi, and also because there's no safe space. He feels like he doesn't have any place to breathe because wherever he goes, he gets asked about his parents and what's going on with them. And then there's also the talk about his sister and how she doesn't go to school. So like he really felt like he was gonna suffocate. But then Hikaru tells him, "Listen, whenever you feel that way, just you can come over to my place." Hikaru gave him that safe space to belong to, so that safe space for him to breathe, and that's something that you can see in Yoshiki's eyes, that he doesn't take he loved that part of Hikaru, that he finally found a place where he could breathe with Hikaru, but now it's definitely gone. And the Noriki points out to Hikaru a bit later, that even though he's never gonna be able to replace Hikaru, he will always be there to protect them from any danger, which is so really interesting to me, as we at the end of the episode we get to see what actually happened to Hikaru in the mountain. And Hikaru just slipped and hit his head so hard that he bled out. But as Hikaru was bleeding out, he asked Hikaru starts seeing like the Noriki come down, and he starts wondering like, oh, I can't leave Yoshiki alone. So he wanted any way to help Yoshiki. Even in his dying breath, he asked the Noriki to like keep watch and stay close to Yoshiki. And yeah, no, great stuff from the summer Hikaru died. Probably one of the best anime currently airing. The storytelling is great. The animation is great. This was a bit low on the lower half compared to the previous 2 weeks, because it's a lot of world building and a lot of backstories that probably will keep making the story more interesting moving forward. As now that we know that Yoshiki found the dead body, like what else is gonna keep occurring. And no, yeah, I'm so interested in more of this anime. Rating this episode a 8 out of 10. Clevatess, episode 4. So we kick off right where the last one left off, with Dark Beast having their dinner, and Alicia trying to get her way to the regalia that's deep in the pond or lake, whatever. And as she's avoiding all the dark beasts that are having their meals, she starts wondering like, okay, well, I know like my mindset is to keep on drowning and keep reviving. I know that I'm not gonna actually die, but like the way her body works is that even though it won't ever like she will never be truly gone, that her pain remains, and she still gets to feel all the things leading up to her death. So as she's drowning repetitively and can't breathe, uh she gets to experience all the pains that come along with that. And as soon as she arrives to the regalia, and there's a comes to realize the regalia is on top of this giant ass dark beast, which we find out that it's a an ancient one, which the ancient ones are like a lot stronger than a lot of the other dark beasts, not only in size but also like in amount of time that they've been alive. Like they've been alive for tens of thousands of years, something like that, I think is what they said. And because of the ancient one, now we can really summarize the reason why the legendary hero couldn't really beat these dark beasts when he arrived here was due to the ancient one. The ancient one was too much for the hero to take on even on himself, and Alicia kind of pointed that out that yeah, this would have been too much for the hero. No wonder he wasn't able to get purge the area of these dark beasts. And yeah, I love that Alicia, even though she's a woman, and they make it well known that she's could never be the the swordsman or like the strength of a regular hero would have if it were a man. The father points out that she is able to bring out the actual power of the weapons a lot better than most other people, and that's what's gonna make her a fine hero. Which, in turn, once she gets the regalia from the ancient one somehow, she's able to use its power relatively easily, and you can see why she became a hero. She was just slicing and dicing the beast left and uh as much as possible, but still, like, she used the sword mainly to get away, as she used it as kind of like to propel herself past the dark beast. She did slay one as she was going up, but the other ones pretty much were already had their meals with the rest of the people that she dumped with her. And as she managed to get out, I was like, oh no, she got it right. And she basically left them there to be ancient one meat, which it was really interesting. Like the dark beasts, even though they're, essentially like very savage, when it came down to trying to steal from the ancient one's meal, they kind of like backed off, like almost like if their instincts kicked in and like, oh, we shouldn't be messing around with that one. And that was really interesting to me, but also to Alicia, like she pointed it out, like, man, they're just like kind of going away. They're not even bothering to join in with the ancient one, like almost as if the ancient one is not the dark beasts don't even are almost the same as humans to it of sorts. And Alicia's leaving the band, so like kind of telling her like, hey, can you help us out? Like, I know we did some terrible stuff, but like, you're a hero, right? Like, you wouldn't just leave us here to die or anything like that. And she was like, well, I'm not the kind of hero you thought I was. And even so, like, she has that whole thing with Klein, how she has to get rid of all the bandits in order to prove herself to him, prove that she has some worth to him. And she pretty much leaves them there to die, saying like, yeah, listen, I may, I don't, I can't even help you guys out because my own life is not even my own. I follow even I follow something even worse than the ancient dark beast. Then Klein kind of does the does communication with Alicia through the Igor that he placed on her, and he pretty much lets her know, like, listen, you've been holding out on me about this magic stuff, right? I'm kind of This was more of a struggle than I anticipated, and I don't like that you held information from me. You need to get here ASAP. So Alicia rushes to where he's at as fast as possible, and we learn that magic is not really being able to. It's not wielded by everybody. Only certain people that have an innate talent can wield magic, and it also requires the redstones that are so valuable to even attempt to use magic. So that's probably one of the huge hints as to why the Hedenian tribe and the royals were the only ones that were capable of creating this regalia, because they have the magic capabilities and also the techniques to be able to make them. So that's probably why they're so sought out. And that's why they're so important, and why Luna is so important. And as we see, uh, Luna gets taken away by Krobos or Broko, forget his name, and as he learns that this Luna has magic, that's why he kind of wants to take her away, because I think he noticed right then and there that, oh, she could be a Hidanian royal, or at least a Hidanian, and they'll fetch a good price if they know how to wield magic. But unlucky for him, Alicia and Klein were like right on his trail, and I love the conversation that Klein and Alicia had, because Alicia wanted to find out what would happen to humanity if Luna was no longer there, or like the main guy kind of got rid of her, and Klein just straight up said, "Listen, I would lose my, I would lose any sense of keeping humanity alive. Like he would lose a lot of interest, because Luna is his main interest. Like he wants to use Luna to kind of rule humanity from the shadows. So to him, if Luna's no longer present, he's just gonna go and destroy humanity," which Alicia kind of pointed out, and she's basically said like, "Yeah, this guy already has his mind set on wiping out humanity, and the only thing really keeping him from doing that is Luna." So in her mind, the one way for humanity to have a chance of to keep surviving and to keep thriving is for her to keep Luna safe, and so that Luna can keep Klein in a way away from trying to destroy the rest of the world. So it's a really interesting predicament. Like, yes, we have a monster that just wants, whose only interest is to really rule humanity, but also they have has an interest in actually learning about humanity, but he'll only want to learn it through watching this baby grow up to become a proper ruler that he nurtures himself. So once they've once they see that there's blood everywhere from Nell, who's been dragged along, they find Broko, and Broko kind of like points out that the only way they can get Luna back is if Alicia tells them all about the regalia from the 13 heroes and where they're at, so that he can go get them, as he figures out that Luna is of royal Hidanian blood, thanks to Alicia trying to persuade him to take her legendary sword instead. And basically he tries to make an escape, Broko that is, by using an invisibility spell after finding out the information that he wanted, and he didn't realize that Luna was crying the entire time, or he kind of didn't care to notice it, or whatever the case was. Luna was crying, so like Alicia knew exactly where they were, and she just sliced them in half. And we we have everybody finally together, and Alicia was kind of like, well, Nell really helped us out her with buying time to save Luna, and she is like the wet nurse that we've been looking for. We should probably bring her back alive. And in this moment, we see that Klein actually has somewhat of a human heart, at least, because he does grant Alicia her wish to bring back Nell, but it was at the cost of her dying once again. And she was like, well, I'm kind of used to it by now, and plus a hero's that's a hero's duty. I don't mind having to go out for a while if it means we get to save someone else. So Clevatess does that, and he brings back Nell. She is now Neluro, which is her reborn name, and we finally get the wet nurse that they've been looking for. And it's so interesting now that she was asked once again if she wanted to go with them, kind of a courtesy, or like, it's time to undo your wrongs from the previous time, and she totally agrees. So This anime has been fantastic. I think one of the clearly underrated animes, and definitely one that should be watched. I highly recommend it. Rating episode 4, 9 out of 10. Dandadan, episode 16. So, we kick off the episode with an emergency announcement being broadcast around the spring area about how the volcano erupted and how everybody should get to safety. And Momo is kind of like there, realizing, well, if I don't do something now, like the actual Great Serpent legend might come to fruition. But then she starts thinking about it, and it's like, wait a minute, the, it wasn't really about a Great Serpent. What if it was actually about the springs that are coming out? Like those are what the Great Serpent was supposed to be, the springs. So like she starts wondering, okay, well, we have this worm here that was just dried up and gone, and we have spring water that has erupted. So she combines her brain and starts coming up with ways of with a way to like stop the lava from flowing into town. So she goes, takes one end of this of the earthworm or great serpent, whatever, and plugs up the where the water's coming out, and then she runs all the way to the other end of the head where like so she can actually use the earthworm as sort of like a kind of like a hose basically, but it's not really just gonna bring out like spring water. It's actually gonna bring up the earthworms or the great serpents like a liquid that is within its body that is actually will be able to stop the lava from flowing into town. And I gotta say, the animation of Momo just running up and down was like incredible to me for some reason. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, not like extremely actiony, but like it just felt like nice seeing like a good run with decent animation. And lo and behold, the Kido family, when Momo has everything set up, decides to get their little feet or toes in her business and drop drop kicks her. So now she has the Kido family that she has to deal with because they are trying to like stop her from using the Great Serpent as she sees fit, and they're kind of like putting the blame on her for like allowing the Great Serpent to be killed and for the town to be in this peril where now they could be overrun by magma at any point. And lo and behold, the boottuber, I think, Manjuro, shows up to save Momo with a kick of his own. Like, this has been a very good and heavy, like, choreographed episode of a lot of kicks, which is really interesting because we have Manjuro, the Kido family, and then the evil eye comes back and starts wailing at the Kido family head. And I gotta say, like, some of those kicks have looked so deadly. Like, there was like an impact frame of the evil eye sending this kick that just like completely snapped the Kido family head's entire arm in half. It's quite like, damn, that was crazy. And then he tries to uh, go after Momo, and Manjuro kind of steps in a bit, and then comes to realize, oh, listen, I am way that thing is way too much for me. Momo's like, okay, well, in an unlikely way, we should team up, and with us three together, we might be able to stand a chance. And they do team up for momentarily, but the evil eye kind of ran Momo dry of her psychic power, and then right before he he was about to deal a lethal kick to Momo's skull, the mantis shows up from season one and starts wailing at the evil eye, which came in clutch because now we realize who also came in a great entrance, probably one of the greatest entrances I've seen in a bit of it, which was none other than Seiko Momo's grandmother shows up in a floating, uh, kind of like mannequin, but coming down a alien spaceship, like super theatrical and so much aura in that. And one of the great things about this entrance is like we find out that she even came in with like her own theme song and stuff. But the one person that was singing her theme song was Chiquitita, the child that this mantis was trying to save when it was working through with the Serpos, and it's just really nice showing that all the good deeds that Momo and Okarun have done or will do have always come back to help him in the end. Like things with Ira in season one also came back to help him during that same season when in the next arc, and now this guy with the it's his sixth child Chiquitita came in and clutch to help them out and bring Seiko along. Just really love how well this anime just shows progression of characters and shows returning characters coming back to relevancy once again. And now we have the another great moment of Seiko as she starts coming down, handing out orders, and she starts wailing at the evil eye with her metal bat, and it's just the whole animation of that fight sequences was like incredible. There was one point when she actually flicked her cigarette at him and used that as a momentum to like swing her bat back at him, and then used the mannequin to her advantage. Taro was like, okay, now you go. And basically, Acid, the evil eye kind of played into the trap bit where like he broke the mannequin into like a bajillion pieces, and then it had like a tag attached to it that later confined them in it as the pieces came back together. So Seiko was managed to get there, save the day, and look really cool afterwards with all her poses. And it was amazing, like seeing her come back and seeing that she actually can kick ass outside of her known world, or like the part where she has all her psychic power. There was more so her being able to fight physically and with martial arts in it. And we learned that this Manjuro kid also is training under her, calling her master. And he was like, well, when she was trying to give him a scolding as to why he didn't do more during this fight, he was like, well, listen, you're lucky. I think I managed to do well considering you're crappy at giving more information. Your communication's terrible. And she's like, you know what? You're right. Good job. And that's all he needed. And we have the other side of this episode with Momo and Okarun, as Momo realizes, well, shit, now that the Laba's no longer a threat, I need to go for Okarun. She runs straight to where Okarun was. But she finds lava covering the entire hole, and she just starts panicking. Like, you can really see that Momo is really distraught at the thought of her losing Okarun, and especially after giving him her promise that she will come back for him and that she will be the one to save him when she gets back. So she does try. Like, she freaks out and she grabs playing. It's like, let me in there. I can probably get in there, see if he's still alright in the lava. And Chiquitita kind of comes in clutch, using the light beam from the spaceship to grab the entire lava that was within the hole. And luckily for everybody involved, Okarun and Turbo Granny happened to be alright, because some of the mucus from the earthworm that was left behind was acting as kind of like cover from the lava, which is also the mucus that covered the lava in Momo's plan as well. And Okarun ended up being okay, and he tries to apologize, like, "Hey, I'm sorry that I didn't handle Chiji like I said I would." And then as he's like trying to like get to her, he slips and falls on her chest, and he starts like feeling blushed, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just do that." And then Momo does some incredible stuff with the way they animated the scene of Momo going in for a hug. On his chest was so beautiful, so touching. Like the music that was playing, the atmosphere. It was just everything I could have asked for that moment. And she said, "I'm sorry, I I couldn't, I wasn't there, and I kind of wasn't able to save you like I said I would as well." But she was like, "I'm so glad you're alive." Kind of like, yeah, this is the moment that pretty much solidified that Momo has strong feelings for Okarun, and which is pretty big considering that Okarun has had insecurities throughout this entire Evil Eye arc, to where he felt inadequate. He felt that Gigi was a better fit for Momo, but I, at least to the viewer's eyes and to the readers that read the manga, this was such a moment that really solidified this ship and really pushed it a lot further along, which I really love. And no, yeah, Dandadan has been cinema every week. I think aside from the first week, the rest have been pretty 10 out of 10s, including this week, at least for me. And yeah, that's all I have on it, and that's all the anime I want to cover today. So if you like what I discussed, you like the animes I talk about, just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit a comment, and until next time, bye.